Welcome to Crafty Chemist Designs. Today I have a great project for you. But first, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you can see every time I drop a new video. On with the project. This video is part of a monthly card making hop hosted by Valley Oak Paper. Halloween is the theme for October 2025. Find more inspiration in the videos linked below. Today, I'm going to be creating this fun tunnel card that is 3D but can still fit into an envelope. Look at the dimension on that. See how it flattens into a 6x6 size shape that you can mail in a 6x6 envelope. That may require additional postage. Let's take a piece of black cardstock and I'm going to cut it at 6 inches by 10 inches. But use whatever color base that you want for your card. And then I'm going to score it at 4 inches and 6 inches. That makes the sort of outer shape of the card. Next, we need a piece for the side, and that is going to be 3 inches by 6 inches. And I'm going to score that at 1/2 inch and 2.5 inches. And that will complete the sort of box. And now we need to find some kind of designer series paper that we can use to decorate the front. And I'm using this paper from the Spooky Sweet collection by Stampin Up. And this is sort of a black swirl with a little bit of white and orange in it. And that piece is 4 inches by 6 inches. What I found when I made my sample is that I felt that the front was a little bit too weak. So I'm going to put another layer of black cardstock underneath it to give it a little bit more strength. And that is 4 by 6 also. That way it won't bend up once I cut out the pieces. Now we need to cut the 3 layers inside, and those are 1 inches by 5 inches. You can cut as many as you want, however many layers you want. I'm putting 3 so that really there's going to be 4 layers because there's the front and then the next 3 layers, and then I guess the back also. So these are 1 inches by 5 inches. And then I'm going to score them at 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. You need those little 1/2 inch edges to fold over so that you can secure it to, the card base. I used rectangle pieces, just plain black pieces. But if you want to do something like cut them into shapes with grass or a rolling hill or whatever you want, depending on what kind of scene that you are creating, you can do that. I'm making mine plain black so they kind of disappear into the night. But if you're making an outdoor scene or something, go ahead and make rolling hills. Now fold them, the 1/2 inch edges over on each side with your bone folder. And again, those are the pieces that we're going to secure to the card box. Now I'm going to fold and burnish my card box so you can kind of see it almost looks like a book there. Now this is the side piece that's going to close the box up. And you can see how I'm going to attach those 1/2 inch folded pieces to complete the box shape. Okay, now you need to find a die that you can cut out a sort of a window in the front. I am using this oval, but you can use whatever you want. When you're cutting the shape, make sure you leave enough space on the sides that's going to cover up your 1/2 inch piece from, the side. So just kind of keep that in mind. Plus, you need something to give it a little bit of strength. I am using the arches from the Everyday Arches collection. And I'm putting all 3 layers together so that I can cut it all at once. And the reason I'm doing that is because I know that they will perfectly match up once I assemble them. Okay, make sure when you do this that you're putting it on the card front. So you want the sort of the book binding side to the left. There you go. Okay, I'm putting them in there, making sure it's all lined up. I'm putting my Everyday Arches die in the center, and I am going to tape it down just to make sure that I place it where I want. Because remember, you want that like 1/2 inch at least on each side to cover up the folded part from the other piece once you glue them together. There are 3 layers of paper there, so it was a little bit hard for me to pull it through, but I also pulled it back to make sure that it was cut all the way through. Now you need to be really gentle when you're taking off your washi tape so that you don't rip the paper at all. And I'm going to layer these up. On my sample, I used glue. I felt that warped my paper a little bit. So between adding this extra layer and not using glue, I'm hoping that it won't warp quite as much. And then I'm placing this is just the piece that I'm putting in to make it stronger. So lay that down. And now let's put our designer series paper on top. And I am using a lot of adhesive around the edges, and then I'm going around my shape too on the inside, just to make sure that it's held down right on the inside of my opening. You can use, like I said, a rectangle for your opening. You can use a circle. You can use an oval. It just depends on what kind of scene you're trying to create. I had these wonderful nested dies that are arches, and so I use that. Next, let's attach our side piece that's going to close up the box, and I am going to fold the pieces underneath. Mine is sticking out a little bit from into the opening, so I'm drawing a little bit of a pencil line, and I'm going to cut that out, just a little piece, a little sliver, so that I won't be able to see that once I glue it together. If you left a full 1/2 inch on the side, like I mentioned you should, you won't have to do that. But okay, now I'm pretty happy with how that came out. So let's adhere this together. I am using some pretty strong ATG adhesive there. You can use glue, but like I said, I'm not that great with glue, and I felt it warped my box a little bit. So I'm switching to adhesive for this version. Just making sure I get all the adhesive onto the card front so none was sticking out, and making the card sticky. We don't want that. Okay, now let's layer them up. I'm layering the one side that's attached to the front. And before you layer the back side, you want to make sure that you put in your pieces. Now I am layering these little inserts about 1/2 inch from the bottom on that 2-inch sort of book binding section there. And that's why I cut my pieces that were 1/2 inch on the sides folded out, because if you put 3 1/2-inch pieces and then you have 1/2 inch in front of that, that will be the total 2 inches. So if you're using more inserts, like you want more layers, say you're using 5 pieces, you'll want to adjust the size of your folded area so that they all fit. Okay, and I'm lining that first one up against the fold and about 1/2 inch up from the bottom. And that's based on the opening that I have, that arch. If you're using a different kind of opening, you might want to adjust that up or down to match your opening. Okay, now I'm just layering these in one right after the other, and they're butted up right against each other. I'm putting a little bit of glue, even though I use adhesive, and that gives me a little bit of wiggle room to be able to move those around. You want to make sure that you put those down so that they are laying straight. I'm letting it dry 1 second. There we go. Now I feel like I can put adhesive on the other end so that we can close the box up. I'm putting the adhesive, and then again I'm adding just a touch of glue to hopefully give me a little bit of wiggle room when I try to layer these. So here comes the part, and I'm sorry I'm slightly low on the frame, but all I'm trying to do is glue it to the side piece there and then glue the side piece closed, and I'm making sure that they're even. Make sure that they're even up and down and side to side. Make sure that they're spaced properly. Okay, now that has been glued down. Now on mine I put a decorative design on the back. That's a piece of paper. I am adding this after I make the box, which might seem counterintuitive, but when I did my sample, I put it in first before I closed the box, and what I found was I didn't have it centered based on my opening. So I feel this way, if you add it afterwards, you can center the opening. I'm using this really fun paper that's part of that Spooky Sweet pack in the back. It looks kind of like a door, like kids are trick-or-treating. And that was really the basis of my whole design. Now I'm placing that inside. And if you do put a piece in there, it would be 4 by 6 inches. And it does cover up the seam, which is really nice once you put it after you complete the box. Now I'm just using the Spooky Sweet stamp set and bundle, the dies. I stamped the 2 little characters and a couple accessory pieces, and I am going to color them using my Stamp and Blend markers. This bundle is so cute. They have these really cute little characters who are dressed up. There's a little cat that's dressed up like a witch, and there is a dog that's dressed up like Frankenstein. So I tried to stick with Halloween colors. I'm using purples and oranges. And then, of course, I had to make the Frankenstein shirt green. My stamping wasn't as crisp as I like, so I'm going in with the black and just filling some pieces in. Now let's cut these cute little characters out. The bundle does come with the dies that cut these out. So it cuts out the cat and the dog, and there's even dies that cut out the broom and the little pumpkin trick-or-treat basket. Now the die set comes with this little fence. So I felt the front of the box card needed something. So I'm cutting out 2 pieces of the fence in a gray color. I didn't want it to be black because I wanted you to be able to see it, but I didn't want it to be white. And then the dies also come with 2 bats. So I'm going to add the bats to add some drama to the scene. Look how cute those are. And the sentiment, on here I did just stamp it on a piece of white and then used a punch to do the sides. But I realized that I had that very similar shape from the Inspirating Beauty set. So I just cut that out. And now I'm stamping No Tricks, All Treats because I think it's perfect for this little trick-or-treat scene. And I am gluing that down to the front. And now adding my little pumpkin trick-or-treat basket and this little broom. Aren't those cute? Just to decorate the front a little bit. And now I'm going to glue the Frankenstein on the very back layer, not on the card itself, but on that first sort of strip that I put in there. And I'm only gluing the very bottom. So those pieces are just kind of sticking straight up. Now I'm putting the cat on the second one, or the middle layer. And the stamp set only had 2 character stamps, but this paper suite came with some really neat punch outs. And there's a little fairy princess thing, and then there's this crow, I think he is, with a trick-or-treat basket. So I'm using that, and it's just punched out. It's already colored. You can just use it directly to put that on that very front layer. So he's got his little trick-or-treat box, so I thought he went really well with the scene. Okay, now let's decorate the front. I'm using the fence. The fence is a little bit too long, so I'll show you what I'm going to do to match them up. First, I'm going to cut off one of the posts so that there's not a double post right there in the middle. And then I'm going to cut off that last, fence layer so it will fit perfectly across the front. And once I put these together, it looks like it's just one, big piece of fence. You can't really tell that I pieced it. So I put that along the bottom. I did not add adhesive to the very top where the posts stick up, because you don't want that to be sticky. Especially when you close the card and put it in the envelope, you don't want that to, be sticking to the back. Okay, I felt that was a little bit too plain, so I was looking for something, and I found that I had these pumpkins from the Tractor & Co. But then when I was punching out that crow, I found this little set of pumpkins with the crow on it, and I thought, let's just use that. If you don't have this paper pack or whatever, you could use the pumpkins from the Tractor & Company set. So I'm just making it easy by using that punch out. And so now let's work on the bats. I have the bats hanging down on a piece of, I use transparency film. I'm a teacher, so I have that, and we don't use transparencies anymore. So I'm cutting a piece that's about 1/2 inch, and I'm not worried about the length so much. I am making it longer than what I probably want, just so that I have, I could cut it later once I have the pieces down. So I'm going to try and figure out where I want the first bat to go, measuring it. I'm only going to add glue right to the middle of the body of the bat and glue that down. Now glue the other one, and I'm kind of skewing him going the other way. Okay. And it's going to go right in there hanging down. You probably should wait till it dries a little bit, but I'm trying to do this for the video. I'm putting it down in there, and I'm going to hold it just till it dries a little bit, and I'm going to lay it down on the front so that it doesn't slide down. Now what I did is I went back and I cut off the excess, kind of matching the shape of the bat. So it's hanging down, it's kind of loose flipping around, so it looks like they're flying in the air. So now you can see, now that it's dried a little bit, I'm going to trim around the bat shape so that that extra piece of plastic is not hanging down. There we go. Take that away. Look how cute that is. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the project. You can purchase any of the items discussed in the video at my website, thecraftychemist.stampinup.net. I have a Facebook business page, Crafty Chemist Designs, where I go live and do demos every Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. I also have a Facebook VIP group called The Crafty Chemist Presents Stampin' Up, where you can post your work, ask questions, and have a good time. You can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Crafty Chemist Designs. And my blog is periodicallycrafty.blogspot.com.